So you have 130 pounds Saint Bernard.
Yes. There he is. Bush.
Yeah, it's a big guy.
Yeah, he is.
How long have you had him for?
I've had him since he was a puppy.
Okay,
So he'll
few
be.
months.
He was born January 24th, 2020.
Okay,
I got him in March.
I see. So yeah, 2 months you got him.
Yeah.
And then when did he start displaying the behaviors?
Um. So he right before he turned two. So my best friend got a German Shepherd around about like 2 months after I got him. So that they always played together. And the first right before he turned two, her dog jumped on me, and then he didn't attack him, but he like just kind of pushed him and pinned him off of me. He
Hmm.
didn't bite him or anything like that, but like that was, I guess, the first incident.
Hmm.
And then I went to take him to a dog park, and there were some large intact males that were there, and they kind of growled through the fence, so we never went back to a dog park. We never went inside. They were just growling
Sure.
through the fence, so then we never went back. Um, and then I lived in an RV and traveled for a while. We did a lot of hiking, so he has, I would call him decently trained. He has a good recall. And one day when we were in Colorado, we were hiking. It was sort of a popular trail, so he was still on his leash. But someone else had a dog that wasn't on a leash, and we had to like kind of go up a hill. So I couldn't see that there was a dog up there until we were on top of the hill, and the dog was like
Yeah.
kind of waiting. So then as soon as we came over, it ran over and attacked him, and the
Mm.
owners were like 100 yards down to the right. Like they were
Yeah.
nowhere near, and like didn't apologize, didn't even turn around. And then I have a Yorkie, and my Yorkie jumped out of my backpack. So like I didn't break up the fight or anything, but like once my Yorkie jumped out, he ended up biting this dog on the back, and then it ran off.
The Yorkie bit the dog.
No, 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 no. Bush bit the dog. So once my
Okay.
like Yorkie got involved, then he got like more. Then I saw him like
Defensive.
actually bite the dog, and the dog left.
So the off-leash dog attacks Bush. Bush
Yes.
is non-confrontational, essentially. Your Yorkie jumps out, and then Bush goes, okay, now it's serious, and then bites the dog.
Yeah. So
Okay.
he was sort of defensive, but he wasn't really mean yet. And then
Yeah.
I like the Yorkie jumped, I fell, and then he got mean.
Gotcha. The other dog, when it was going after Bush, was it actively biting Bush, or was it just a lot of mouthiness?
Yeah, just like like when it looks a lot worse than it is,
Yeah.
type thing.
Yeah.
And that's typically what all of his incidents have been.
Okay.
So like he actually had one a couple nights ago,
Okay.
and so my boyfriend recently moved in with me, and he
Hmm.
has a GSP, very high energy. So we introduced them like in a neutral place, and like I had Bush on the leash, and like his dog really doesn't care about anything other than playing fetch. So like he didn't mind. And the first like two interactions like that, they were fine. They just sort of coexisted. And
Hmm.
then I don't know what happened, whether like the dog bumped into him or bumped into me, but like it was the flip of a switch, and my dog is Bush has hated him ever since. Like if he sees him, he like will go after him.
Real good though. And this you said was a couple of nights ago.
Yeah, so he's gone after him uh 3 times. Um the first time he actually did get like a decent bite. Like he wasn't hospitalized or anything, but he did get a bite on my boyfriend's dog.
Hmm.
It was just a couple teeth marks on the shoulder. And
Okay.
then so then I tried it was my boyfriend's brother accidentally let him in the house. We weren't home. Um so then we tried reintroducing them, and I was taking them on walks together, and like everything was fine. and then after, and like he's muzzle trained, he's used to the muzzle, he's fine with it. And then after one of the like after walks, we would come in the house and just sort of coexist together. And
Hmm.
they started doing decent, and then um, Roy, like that's my boyfriend's dog, the GSP. He like jumped down the stairs, and I don't know if that startled Bush, but then he lunged at him. Um, there was no injuries or any bites or anything there. And then the one the other night, same thing, no injuries, no bites. It was just a lot of
Yeah.
that.
So the only bite has been the one that was on the shoulder.
Yeah,
Okay. And I'm sorry, how long ago was that?
that was in September, October.
Okay, so a few months back.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
so
just kept them separated since.
that was in September. And then the next one, the next kind of aggressive occurrence with Roy was when?
Um, March.
So then we got March. And then the next one was the one that was a few nights ago.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just getting my
He,
timeline down.
yeah. He just like essentially does not like large intact males. So I had my boyfriend get his dog fixed, but he still hates him.
Yeah. There's tension there. How long ago was he fixed?
He was fixed in February,
Okay, so it's been a
so
few
he's
months.
only recently been fixed.
Okay. Uh, does Bush, I mean, and I'm assuming with your Yorkie, there's never been issues.
No, no,
And you're
I had the Yorkie first,
first, okay.
and he's 16 and a
You
half
got,
now.
so you got very, very small and you got very, very big.
Yeah, and then I ended up and like he's had good interactions with other dogs. Like I've brought him like to the beach, and like he's played with like dogs there for like golden doodles or like,
Okay.
and he loves doodles, loves them.
Okay.
Very weird. But then, and I rescued a dog, but she was a female. So like he's fine with like, and we've had dogs run up to us before, like off leash, and if it's a female, it's fine, but if it's a male, it's not.
Hmm. Okay. Um, just look at my notes here. So he's muzzle trained. That's good. How long has he been around Roy?
I introduced them in July of last year.
Okay, so nearing a year now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they've been slow introductions. So after that incident in July, they didn't see each other again until my boyfriend's brother accidentally let them in the house together.
Uh,
Um, and then they didn't see each other again. I reintroduced them again in February-ish, doing the walks, and everything was great on the walk.
yeah.
Um, but the incident last night was Bush was outside with the other dogs, and Roy was inside, and I went out the back door, and Roy ran out with me, and then Bush saw him and came.
Okay. So Roy was coming out with you as you were going into the yard. Bush sees him coming out with you and then
Yeah.
pursues. Okay. Anything else?
Uh, no.
And you said Roy's a more higher energy, like he's like like a GSP.
Super high energy.
Okay.
Every animal in my house hates him.
Okay.
My cats don't like him. The Yorkie
Yeah.
snips at him. My rescue snips at him. They tolerate him, but he doesn't blend in well with the family.
Yeah. That's part of the problem. I mean, there's a number of problems, but that one is a difficult one.
Yeah, and I think so. He doesn't have the Roy doesn't have a dominant personality per se, but he grew up as an only dog, so like it's his world and no one else is in it. So like he gets
Mhm.
along with other dogs, like and he'll play fetch, but if the other dog gets the ball first, he will actually take the ball out of the other dog's mouth.
Yeah.
So like
That's-
that will never fly with my dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Not that my dog even plays, but like that sort of behavior I know will not fly with him.
100%. Yeah, yeah. That won't fly with a lot of dogs, you
Yeah,
know.
it's honestly a miracle that he gets along with as many dogs as he does.
Yeah. Well, it's it sounds like Roy is kind of a happy-go-lucky guy,
He is.
but he's so happy-go-lucky that he just doesn't think that, uh that how, like tension is a thing, that like fights are a thing, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
going up and grabbing a ball of a dog's mouth, like he's most likely doing it playfully. He's like, I'm not a threat, I just want the ball, right? But if he
Hmm.
does that to the wrong dog, that's a big problem,
Yeah.
you know?
He luckily hasn't had that happen yet.
Yeah. So, that's I guess a later topic, but for Bush, um, it sounds like he's territorial over you for one.
Oh, so very much so.
Yeah.
And my Yorkie is too, so I think, the two, like, he sort of got it from him. Like, if someone hugs me, my Yorkie will bark.
Hmm.
Like, I know that's an issue.
Part of it, I'm going to attach to the fact that you got him in 2020, because in 2020, like I had a lot of clients that got dogs, or had dogs that became suddenly territorial, because everybody was home all the time. You know,
Yeah, and I work remote too, so
yeah,
we are always together.
yeah, yeah. That's part of it. Um, Unfortunately. So, I'll walk through everything, what can be done. The biggest thing that you would struggle with is that your dog's sheer size. He's 130 pounds, he's a big guy. So if things ever escalated to the point of like absolute seriousness, that's where it's problematic. Like if it's a 30-pound dog or a 40-pound dog, it's like, all right, cool. Like, all things set aside, physically, there's things that we can do to uh, handle the situation. But the bigger the dog, obviously, the bigger the bite, the harder they are to control physically. Even for myself, I've had 140, 150-pound Great Danes come through, and I know what I'm doing. And like before the training, they're just like, hauling you down like a horse. And then once you rein them in, all of a sudden it's much easier. But in those early stages, if you don't have the handling skills to kind of be able to contain them to a degree,
If
it's
I will say, for him being on, like, he doesn't pull much on a leash. He, like, he's very good on walks. Like I said, he, taking him hiking, a lot of times I wouldn't have him leashed, and he, stays sort of at my knee.
Mhm.
Um, and then for how strong he does not pull for how he should, he's
Yeah.
well.
I mean, so in that regard, they're kind of lazy, like especially if it's a hot day.
Hmm.
Like I've worked with St. Bernards in the past, and if it's a hot day, they're like 4 feet behind you because they're just like trying to keep up or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is more like in the situation of like if he became aggressive and it's like, oh, I need to take him off. That's where um it's a problem. So when it comes to any training, did you do any previous training in the past with him?
Not professional, just myself.
Just yourself? Okay. Is he on any kind of training collar?
He has an e-collar, but I've spoken to some other people, and apparently the collar that I have isn't the best. So I bought oh gosh, I forget the name of it. I actually just bought a new one. It is it's like e technology or something.
Is it a yellow remote?
Yes,
Okay, that's the wrong one. So that it's most likely the
the
standard.
mini educator.
Yeah. So that's
That's the
meant
wrong
for, yes. So keyword is mini here. Mini is for a smaller dog. Typically dogs under 35 pounds. So they have three versions. Mini, the standard, and then what's known as the boss, if it's still the same name. Technically speaking, he would be under the boss. Okay, because it's meant for a dog that's 70 pounds and over. Don't worry about it because I actually don't recommend e-collar technologies.
one.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
If you decide to move forward with me, if you move forward with a different trainer, e-collar technologies is technically the most common collar that's used. Reason being is they have like the best customer service. Like no one can deny that.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to retail, because I used to sell e-collar technologies 15 years ago, I could have a client need a collar. I could call e-collar technologies. They will overnight the collar to directly or drop ship the collar to the client directly overnight, and I make a profit. So it's
Oh.
really kind of made them popular in the in my opinion, popular in the dog training world because uh, I don't really have to commit to having a large stock of inventory because I could just call them for one collar and they'll overnight it directly to the client, right?
Hmm.
But the issue that I've had with e-collar technologies is when I first started my career many years ago, I had three aggression cases, and they were all on the e-collar technology brand remote collar, and they were all not either not making progress or getting worse. Okay. And so I ended up buying out of pocket Dogtra collars because that's the one that my mentor used, and I switched them all to the Dogtra brand, and they all started making progress. And since then, I've not used e-collar technologies. It's not that it's not a good collar; it is a very good collar. It's just in my experience with behavior work, like it just wasn't doing well. And then I switched to Doctra, and all of a sudden we start making progress. And I'm doing the exact same thing I was doing before, except the only difference is the collar. Okay. My theory is the way the stimulation is delivered is different if you were to feel them side by side. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what the other trainers I've talked to said, about like the one that I had originally versus the e-collar or versus the Dogtra, that it's
Sure.
like more of a muscle stimulator than a
Yes.
shock.
Correct. So, the word shock comes from a couple of places. One is in the dog training world, there's a lot of drama amongst trainers that are purely positive, and then you have trainers like myself that do e-collar, prong collar, food. We do everything, um, to train a dog. So in the positive only world, they want to deter people from seeking out trainers that use tools like e-collar, prong collar. So they use terms like shock, pain, torture, things like that to dissuade people. But it's not actually electrocution. It's not an electrical shock. It's like, as you noted, a muscle stimulator, right?
Mhm.
Shock also comes from way back when e-collars first came out. They only had like three, maybe five settings. Okay. Whereas, for example, your mini educator or has 100 settings.
Yeah,
Okay. So 5 and 100 will technically be the same in terms of stimulation. It's just we have 100 uh, levels of variance as opposed to only 5 levels of variance, if that makes sense. So because
yeah,
there's more numbers, it's less of a jump, less of a shock, so to speak, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 were drastic jumps. Okay. Lastly, would be shock now is more used to describe cheaper end collars, lower end collars. Like if you go on Amazon, you can find one for like $30, $50. And the
yeah.
way that sensation feels is more along the lines of a shock than a stimulator or muscle stimulator. Okay. Question on any of that stuff so far?
No,
So, regardless if move forward with me or not, so I use Dogtra. So, but if you did use a trainer that used Educator, um, I would not use the mini because at minimum he would be the boss. Okay, just as just general FYI for you,
okay,
because I've had to retrain many a dog that I show up and the owner already has an e-collar and it's a mini educator and it's a 90-pound dog, it's a 120-pound dog. And the first thing I go is, well, that's part of the problem, is you have a collar meant for a dog that's a third to a quarter of your dog size. So the difference is output. There's low, medium, and high output. So on the mini educator, it's going to have a lower output in the sense that it's meant for smaller dogs, so they don't need as much stimulation, right?
yeah,
But if you're dealing with like a Saint Bernard, a German Shepherd, a Rottweiler, a Great Dane, much bigger dogs, more muscle density, right? Going to need a higher level output. So, um, let's say your dog was a 60-pound dog and you're using the mini educator, your number could be 50. But then if you put that dog on a higher output collar, the number would drop to like 20, 25 because you're getting more from less, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get
Okay.
it.
So, um, now, do you have any concept of how the collar is applied in terms of aggression and behavior stuff?
I've never used the collar for aggression or like behavior stuff.
But do you have an idea of how it's applied at all?
No.
No. So a lot of people, they think we would provoke the problem and then you just like, shock the dog, so to speak. That's usually a person's first go-to because they think, well, if my dog's being aggressive, I need to punish the behavior, right? Which makes sense. The problem is e-collar is not natural to a dog, right? They're not meant to have their muscles stimulated. We have to condition them. The dog has to understand how the collar turns on and how the collar turns off. Okay. Once we have that concept down, then we begin to do behavioral work, right? And yes, the answer is partially if the dog does something we don't want, we would correct them. But the difference is they have an understanding of, oh, this thing is turning on right now. I don't like it, but I know I can do something to turn it off. So then if he changed his behavior, like let's say he was barking at a dog, right? And you already did the conditioning and you started to correct him for barking at the dog. He goes, oh, that thing is back. I don't like it. What happens if I stop what I'm doing? Right? So then he stops barking at the dog. And then in response, the e-collar turns off. So then he goes, oh, I started barking at the dog. The collar turned on. I stopped barking at the dog. Collar turned off. Right? And let's say he barks at the dog again. And then the collar turns on. He goes, oh, that thing turned on again the moment I barked at the dog. He stops barking. The collar turns off. So now the dog starts to go, oh, so if I want to avoid the collar here, all I have to do is decide not to bark at that dog. Okay.
Hmm.
But that's why the conditioning process is important because most people, when they do it by themselves, they're thinking, oh, I don't want this behavior. I'm just going to punish it. And then they don't do conditioning. And now the dog's being remoted and the dog doesn't know why it's happening or how to stop it. And this is where things can get worse.
Yeah.
And then if you read the literature, your e-collar probably came with the book, and I'm positive it's in that book because it's in the Dogtra books. It'll tell you,
I haven't actually gotten it yet, so since you don't recommend it,
okay,
I'm just
cool,
gonna
just
take
cancel
it
it, return it.
fully
Okay. Um, in the booklet, it tells you not to use the collar with aggressive dogs. Okay.
Yeah, I've never used it towards
Yeah,
anything
no
like
worries. This is just FYI for you. Okay.
that. Okay.
Is you would read that because I had this happen to me where a client signed up, it was aggression. They did the consult, they signed up. We had our first class because I gave them the collar during the first class. In between classes one and two, they reached out with an email because they were concerned. They're like, hey, this booklet says not to use the e-collar on aggressive dogs. I'm like, yeah, that's correct. However, the difference is you're working with a professional who's done this for 15 years, and you have to do it a certain way. But if you just come in, like I mentioned before, and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to make the problem worse. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it just gets in people's heads because like, oh no, the book says that I'm not supposed to, right? And I'm like, I've done this for 15 years. It's perfectly fine. You just have to know how to do it. So the reason why the e-collar is such a good tool is it allows us to correct the behaviors both on and off leash. If we have the appropriate collar, it doesn't matter how strong the person is that's correcting the dog, because as long as it's set to the correct setting, the behavior should come to a stop. I've had, for example, had a client, she was probably like 5 foot, maybe 90, 100 pounds, and she had a 140-pound Great Dane who was leash reactive. So, the dog weighed more than her, like her shoulder was just above his shoulder. Like it was not a good situation. But in her case, because we had the appropriate tools, she was able to stop the reactivity because she lived in Bucktown here in Chicago, which is a busy part of the city. So she could turn the corner and there would be a dog there, you know? And in her case, we did both prong collar with e-collar because since she was such a small person, she needed the prong collar just in case she got caught off guard for that immediate physical control. And then the e-collar, of course, did the work that she physically wasn't able to do. Okay. Um,
Hmm.
but it's been my go-to tool for, I guess, since I started using them like 13 years ago, because it's the easiest tool to understand. It doesn't take as much technical skill on the owner's behalf. It doesn't require you to essentially become a dog trainer in order to, have control over your dog. It's as long as you understand the exercises, you repeat the exercises, and then have it to the appropriate setting, everything's pretty straightforward. Okay.
Yeah.
Where things get tricky, of course, is behavioral stuff, which is your case. Okay.
Yeah, and other than that, he's perfect.
Yeah.
He's fine on walks. He has good recall. He has manners. He's not territorial over food or anything. He's great with everything except male dogs, and
Yeah.
especially my boyfriend's dog.
Yeah. So one thing that we have to do is look at all the contexts, right? So make sure I got my notes right. Um, do, 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 do. So we had a GSD, your friend's GSD that jumped on you, right? And then he pushed and
German Shepherd, yeah.
jumped. Yeah, GSD is German Shepherd. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear the D.
No, you're fine. Uh, uh, so then Bush pushed and then pinned the GSD for jumping on you.
Yeah, didn't bite him, just pinned him, like
Yeah, yeah.
paw on the throat.
So um, he was protecting you there, right?
Hmm.
Um, is that what's difficult here, and we can correct it. It's a hard thing to work around. Is we can't make him um, like, for example, a dog jumping on you. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? Now, if a dog jumps on you and he comes in to say something, like we can correct him, teach him not to. Okay. And for the most part, it won't affect security in the sense that, like, let's say you're out walking with Bush and a dog came and like attacked you, he would most likely, even after being corrected for this behavior, still come in to protect you. Okay. Because of the context.
yeah,
Obviously, the dog's actively attacking you. That's very different than like Roy jumping on you because he's friendly. Does that make sense?
yeah.
But
And
in,
I didn't. So him being territorial and protective, I never thought was a bad thing because I'm a small young female. I was traveling the states by myself, so I actually enjoyed that he was that way because I
Mhm,
felt safe. And there were a few times where there was some sketchy people, and
mhm.
it so I know it was never a
I get
problem
it.
before. It was actually a
I
good thing.
completely understand. I completely understand. Right. And I personally, as you noted, like I um will tell my clients, like, if your dog protects you, like you don't want to kill it, right? Because it's not coming from a bad place, right?
Hmm.
It's coming, technically speaking, from a good place. It's just in that particular moment with the GSD, it was just a friend's dog, right? But the other thing is, he pushed and pinned the dog. He didn't attack the dog.
Yeah,
Like, in my opinion, he did an appropriate correction, you know? So I think the biggest thing is when you can't control it, like when you can't turn it off, obviously that's a problem. And then in this case, like with your boyfriend's dog, with Roy, obviously that's a problem because if you're trying to coexist in the same space, if he's territorial of you, obviously he has to get used to that. This is a new dynamic for him. You see
yeah.
that?
Well, things after that attack when we were in Denver, everything was like he was horrible. Like afterwards, I had to sort of reintroduce him into public. Like I couldn't take him on walks. Like he was like fearful, aggressive of every dog, big,
Mm,
small, male, female, and like
mhm,
it took a couple months to like sort of retrain him to be back to normal. But like
mhm.
he's never got over the males, the intact males.
Sure. And he may never get over it. The best that we can do is make him tolerate. Okay. I can't make him like other unneutered males.
Yeah,
And that goes for every creature, right? Like I'm sure there's things that you don't like, and no one can make you like those things but yourself, right?
Yeah.
So like
Well, and I know with dogs, any animal, typically you can't have multiple males. So like we have, ducks and roosters, or like you can't have more than one male because
Mhm,
they fight. It's, same thing with dogs or almost any other species.
mhm. So that's where structure comes into play. Like I have a facility here,
Hmm.
obviously. Today I think we have 45, 50 dogs. Um, I know one of them for sure is an unneutered male, and he's in group with other males, you know, because everything's structured here. There's rules, there's consequences for bad behavior and stuff. So they learn to coexist, right? And you can tell there's certain dogs that don't like each other, but they coexist because they know they're here. And if they were to get in the spat or whatever, they would be corrected for it. You
Hmm.
know, my wife's dog and my dog, so I have a pit, Lexi. She's 15 years old now. And my wife has her dog Luna, who's I think she's 5 years old now. They don't like each other, but they coexist. They're two females, but they coexist. Okay. And every now and then we'll see moments of tension, but because I have a correctional cue, like I do the sound, they will just immediately disperse. There's no fight or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
But there's also been a couple of times where if we don't sleep, we have our son. So if we're distracted by our son and we don't catch what's going on, there might be a spat. But the moment we go, hey, they stop right away and they go to their own places, they separate, and then life goes on, right? And this
Hmm.
is me who's been trained off for 15 years because I can't make them like each other,
Yeah.
right? They coexist, and I have the ability to stop them right away. The most that we've ever had in the 5 years that my wife and I have been together has been a scratch on my pizza eyebrow. Okay. Whereas I get clients that come in, the dog's got drains and sutures and stitches and all this stuff, right? Because it's just a bad attack. They couldn't break the dogs apart or what have you. And then we do the training, and then it's like, okay, now they have the ability to, of course, control the dogs. They know about structure and all that stuff. And then as long as they implement and reinforce everything, then the risk for everything drops down dramatically. Okay.
Yeah.
So, um, in your case, what helps you out a lot is that you do have a muzzle conditioned because that's going to be a big part of it. So kudos to you for that. Um, the other big problem here is Roy. Just because of his behavior, what could happen is we can get Bush in line, right? But like, let's say Roy is just being Roy, it puts Bush under stress.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's like, man, he's like, I have to sit here and like do what my mom says or whatever, right? And if I act out, I get corrected, this and that. But that causes the stress to go up because he's like, but that dog's still being crazy, and nobody's doing anything about it. So some like Roy would have to be corrected for his behavior to bring his energy down so that it's easier for them to coexist.
Yeah. And he, like, the couple of times, like, his energy here at my house is very different than him anywhere else because my female will correct him, and then Bush has, sort of, so he is a lot more calm here than he is anywhere else because he has, I think he started, he no like my cats, bop him, like no one likes his energy, so he's learned, I think, to sort of calm down.
Sort of, or calm down. Those are
Compare
two
like
different things.
he is like significant. It is a night and day difference. Him here versus him anywhere else. Like he doesn't jump anymore. He doesn't go on. He doesn't jump on the counters. Like
Mm.
the most high energy thing he does is like skip a couple steps coming down the stairs, and then he
Mm.
gets excited when my boyfriend will get home.
Sure, yeah, it's pretty standard. So, but this is because of your Yorkie and your cats.
And I have an Australian Kelpie, my female that I rescue.
Okay.
Um, she she's pretty good at correcting him. So like if he gets too close to her or he has too much energy, she'll like just sort of snip at him. She doesn't attack.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
but
um, so the humans should always be the ones that are in charge of the corrections. Okay. Because what happens is, um, at this point, there's been no, like you said, like she snaps at him or whatever, but never gone too far, right? But let's
Yeah.
say one day Roy pushes the boundaries again for whatever reason, right? Now the dogs go, hey, you didn't learn last time, so I'm going to teach you today. And then we potentially get either a dog fight or a more significant dog bite because of that. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
here at the facility, like we do all the corrections, right? Dogs don't correct each other here because the moment we leave it as the dog's responsibility, I've in the past I've come into homes where one dog killed another dog, okay, and it was because of a correction. So here's an example. It was a home with three Yorkies and one pit bull. Okay. They had two regular Yorkies and then one toy Yorkie. And then the pit bull is your standard 50, 60 pound pit bull. Okay. They came home one day to find one of the Yorkies dead on the floor. So when I came for the consult, they looked at me and they're like, which dog here do you think is the one that did it? And I looked and I was like, it's the toy Yorkie. And they're like, how do you know? I was like, because when I came in, she's the only one that's barking at me right now. The pit and the other Yorkie were just sitting there chilling. They didn't care about me. The little one was barking at me. And I was like, the fact that she's barking at me is telling me she's leading the situation. These guys could care less. So I'm like, this is the one that most likely did it. And they said yes. So when they came home, they thought the pit bull did it. They go to the room because the pit bull was kenneled. The pit bull was still kenneled. They thought maybe the pit got loose or whatever, right? But what happened was what most likely happened because they weren't home is the toy Yorkie used to bully the other dogs. Okay, if they jumped on the couch and she didn't like it, she would bark at them and nip at them. Okay, so then I'm assuming I said one day when they were gone, the Yorkie probably did something she didn't like. She went to correct the Yorkie, but actually did a bite, but happened to bite the other Yorkie on the vein, and it bled out. Right. So it was just a good bite, so to speak, because it was a real bite in the wrong spot. Exactly. You know, so that's why, I tell everybody, I was like, dogs are never in charge of correcting each other in your home because that's how things like this happen. Okay. Because if they go, you know what, today I'm tired of your BS because you didn't learn the last time, I'm just going to take you out. Like dogs don't have laws like we do, right? They're primal creatures. But if
Yeah.
if it's always the humans that are establishing the structure, they're going to look to the humans to address the problem. Does that make sense? So like
Hmm.
I've been charged by off-leash dogs. I got charged this past weekend when I was training with the client by an off-leash dog. And I always address the situation. So my dogs, if we were to be charged, they don't even become reactive because they're like, yeah, dad's gonna take care of it. We don't got to worry about it. Right? But I get other clients who are like, oh, we were charged by an off-leash dog, and then my dog became aggressive and started getting in a fight. I'm like, yeah, because you guys didn't step in. Somebody has to step in. You see that? So
Yeah.
and this is the difference from like having a singular dog and then having a pack of dogs. Because the moment you go to two dogs, technically you have a pack, right? So even though you only had your Yorkie and your Bernard, you only had Bush for a period of time, that's technically a pack, right?
Hmm.
And now you have your rescue, and then you have Roy that comes in intermittently, right? So he's an
Yeah.
outsider right now. So the other part of it is like creating one cohesive pack and all of the pack defers to the humans, and that's what helps us avoid instances like Bush going after Roy, or even your Kelpie, the Kelpie. Because the moment you see Roy bothering one of your animals, you have to step in and address him, and then your other animals go, okay, cool. We don't have to. This isn't on us. This isn't our responsibility. Does that make sense? And actually,
Yeah.
that brings down the stress levels because everybody's like, okay, cool, we don't have to worry about this guy. Mom and dad will take care of it. And that's how you start to establish more harmony. So this is the difference between like obedience training, right? And then behavioral training. The good thing is I know how to handle a pack of dogs. I used to have 5 dogs many years ago. We currently have 3. Like I said, my wife's dog, my dog, and then I have a Chihuahua as well. Um, and I run a facility with 45, 50 dogs, and it's quiet here. Like there's no barking. It's not that dogs never bark. It's just, they don't bark all day, every day. If a
Yeah.
stranger walked in the kennel room, they're gonna bark because like, who are you? But the moment they come in and go cut it out, they just quiet down. Okay.
Hmm.
So questions on any of that stuff.
No.
Does that make sense though, from a behavioral standpoint?
Yeah. Yeah, that does make sense.
So the other dogs, including Roy, don't have to be trained. Okay. Obviously, Bush, because he's the biggest animal, he can do the most damage, all that stuff, so to speak, right? Yes, you
Hmm.
want to have really good control over that guy. Okay. And then I can also show you how you can correct the other animals without needing training tools, so to speak, to have some kind of harmony. Okay. Because you do have to address Roy and his behavior, but it has to come from you and has to come from your boyfriend because he's the most meaningful person to Roy,
Yeah.
right? So if he's like, "Oh no, it's okay, like it's gonna be fine," and you let it slide, I guarantee you it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't say I've never corrected Roy's behavior because the e-collar that I have, it has the beep and the vibrate. I've never done, this shocker stimulation or whatever. But even just like the beep or the vibrate setting, Roy will stop whatever he's doing. Like he responds instantly to both of those. So like
Hmm.
he used to jump on the back door all the time, and after a few times of the vibrate, he doesn't jump on the back door anymore.
Hmm.
Um, like same thing with him jumping on me. Like I have done some things I think to help correct his behavior. At
Sure.
least
What
I
would that
hope.
be?
Just like if he does something wrong, I do the beep. So like he associates the
So
beep,
there's the beep, the vibrate, and what else have you tried?
just those two on him.
Okay. So
I've never done anything else.
those aren't really corrections. They're corrections to a degree. So the beep is just a sound, right?
Hmm.
And the vibration, what can happen is in the beginning, because vibration is unnatural to a dog, right? Things aren't meant to shake. It catches them off guard, right?
Yeah, you could tell it sort of scares him
Yeah.
or startles
So
him. So,
what could happen is if you always use the vibration and the beep, at some point he gets desensitized to it because they're technically neutrals. Like there's no negative to them, so to speak. Whereas with the stim, because it's a muscle contraction, it's physically uncomfortable. That's actually the deterrent, right? So for Roy, if he were to pester it, like you noted, like with your rescue, like she came in like nipped at him, right? It's the physicality. The physicality to a dog is what's actual correction, if
okay.
that makes sense. Okay. So you've seen change, and I'm glad that you have. Okay. And I'm not saying the vibrate, it's not guaranteed it'll stop working, but it's very common that it'll stop working because at some point the dog goes, oh, it's just a vibration, right? There's no actual negative to it. It's just you have the benefit of catching him off guard and startling him because he doesn't know what it is,
Yeah.
right? But eventually, over 3 months, 6 months, or especially if you're using it all the time because he's always doing something, at some point you go like, I hit the vibrate, and like he just doesn't care anymore. I'm like, right, because it's just a vibration. Okay.
Hmm.
So dogs are physical creatures. They nip and bite each other. And that's how you establish harmony. So like let's say for example, you came home, okay? Roy jumped on you and you didn't want it, right? A lot of people step back to drop the dog or they'll turn again to drop the dog, but then they complain that they always have to do that because the dog continues to jump on them. I go, yes, because you're not doing anything that's an aversive to the dog. If anything, you're encouraging it because you're giving up your space. You're moving away, right? And sometimes that can draw the dog more. The old school way of doing it and what I used to do and what I still do if a dog does it is I just pop them with my knee. I come in, they jump on me and I knee bump them and they'll bump back and they'll go, oh, you don't like it when I jump on you because if I jump on you, I get a knee. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just like if he jumped on the Kelpie and the Kelpie went like that, right? She's going, don't jump on me. That the
Hmm.
physicality aspect. Okay.
Yeah.
So you ever watch Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer?
Um, I've seen some stuff, but not a lot.
Yeah.
I know what he is.
So, Caesar Milan in my opinion, in your case, a great resource because he talks a lot about having a pack of dogs and structure and physicality and when you correct the dog yourself, the reason why that's important is because now this is coming directly from you. It's related to you. The
Mhm.
drawback to the remote collar is because it's a third party. One, the dog doesn't know where it's coming from, which is a pro and a con. But then also, because you need to have this collar on to correct the dog, when the collar is not on, the dog is going to push boundaries. Okay,
Yeah,
that's just normal. Um, for dogs, when they correct each other, the reason why those corrections resonate is because the correctional tool is right here, right? It's the teeth. So for your Kelpie, like let's say Roy came in and he was like all super excited, and then the Kelpie walks in and then he just calms down. It's because he goes, "Oh, you don't like it when I behave this way." And now that she came into the space, he's gonna change his energy.
yeah. And I mean, she's funny. She'll show her teeth before she nips at him, like,
Uh-huh.
get away from me, or I will
Yep.
bite you.
Yep. So, but you see how all that stuff works?
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's the trickiest part is, you have a number of dogs, trying to uh unify them as one pack, and at the same time, trying to teach Bush uh not to protect you in certain circumstances, but in other circumstances, like, well, I kind of like the protection now. You see that?
yeah. And like some of it, like the incident, like he wasn't protecting me last night. Like he was like it was just being. Some
Just
of it's
calm
just
down.
like him being
Yeah. Yeah.
territorial.
No, that was it sounds like that's him just not liking Roy.
Yeah, he hates him.
Because I if I remember correctly, you were coming out into the yard. Roy was happened to come out with you. Bush was already in the yard, and then he just goes after him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you have now is tension. Okay. Um, the issue with tension.
I I guess I should mention the first incident where my boyfriend's brother let the dog in. My boyfriend's brother has an intact chocolate lab, and like they were all three of them were together, and Bush only went after Roy. Like didn't care about the other dog.
Mm,
Granted I wasn't there. That's just what he said, but
yeah.
he only went after Roy.
No. Yeah. That's tension because it's tied to Roy.
Yeah,
So we'd have to break that tension and then try to rebuild um a relationship, so to speak. One thing that would work against you is if Roy always just comes like once a week or whatever, right? Is he's never going to be seen as like a member of the pack.
yeah, and we have so my boyfriend and I were talking about that because his mom like likes to come get him and bring him back to play with his brother's dog, and um, I said the same thing. I was like, he needs to be here all of the time, otherwise Bush is never going to adjust to him being here.
Mm.
So we are on the same page with that. Just right now, with how hostile
Yeah,
Bush is
for sure.
towards him, they're just fully separated.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Okay. Um, Anything else that I should know or any questions so far?
I don't think so.
Okay. So you're wanting to do a board and train, correct?
Yeah, because I think the problem goes deeper than just Roy. I think it's like I said, it's any male, like large male.
Mm.
So I think it goes deeper than just Roy, but Roy is the primary. Roy's the reason for doing this. Because if it
Sure.
wasn't for him, I wouldn't need to.
Sure. Yeah, I gotcha. So, when it comes to behavior work, those programs are typically longer because behavior takes time. Okay. If it was just obedience, I would go, you have so many options available here.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're trying to press socialization, one muzzle is mandatory, which you've already conditioned them, so we're good there. Okay. Um, is the first week we don't do any socialization in a board and train. Okay. Because all we're worried about is the conditioning process. A lot of times dogs are stressed out because they're in a new environment, right? So if we come in right away with the stress of the training, the stress of the new environment, and the stress of trying to socialize the dog, it's kind of just recipe for a bad situation. Okay.
Yeah.
Even if we can work the dog through it, I'm like, it's just like it's a lot. So we take the first week to do all the foundational conditioning, and give the dog a week to settle into the space. Okay. Now he's going to be around dogs. He's going to see dogs.
Hmm.
Okay. Our training room is all right. I call my activity room. It's all one big open space. Okay. We have dogs on dog beds, like doing duration work. We have dogs on treadmills doing their daily exercise. We have dogs in the playpen socializing, and then we have dogs in a playpen in case they're antisocial. And he's going to be there in the thick of everything. Okay. So if he's being reactive, we're going to correct him for the reactivity and stuff. We're just not
Yeah.
going to press socialization. Okay. Then, once everything's settled in, go the second week, we begin the socialization process. Okay. Obviously, the longer we have a dog, the more socialization, the more exposure we can give. So if you only did like a 2 week board and train, well, he's really only getting 1 week of social of being pressed socially. Okay. So that's where we recommend either a 3 to 4 week, so we have more time over and over and over and over again. Okay. Now, do
Okay.
keep in mind my facility and your home are two completely different places, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we get dogs and we don't even see anything, okay? Including reactive dogs, including antisocial dogs or whatever, because since we're structured here, and it's not a free-for-all, it's not craziness. Yes, there'll be stress, but in my opinion, the dogs see these things, right? So let's say Bush came and the dog was reactive to him, we would correct that dog. And then Bush goes, "Oh, this dog barked at me, right? He was corrected. So I don't really have to worry about being reactive myself." Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that already puts a dog in a headspace. Now, it's not to say that when we pressure him socially that he won't do anything, but it's a possibility, And I have unneutered males here that come. I just they don't. I how to say they're daycare dogs, so there we're going to see them when he's here. I just don't know what days, so I can only press them so much with unneutered dogs, so often because they only come so many times a week.
Yeah.
But that we can press. Um, and then when he goes back home, there's always a degree of regression because he's going back home, right? He's going to go home and go like, okay, Jesse's rules don't apply here. And he goes back to who he was. And that's where you reinforcing the training is super important. Because
Yeah.
then he goes, oh, wow, it's not the same home as it was when I left. You see that? And
Hmm.
if you're reinforcing like we do, then he starts to go like, oh, wow, this place is kind of like Jesse's place. Now it's structured, right? And that's what helps him transfer the behavior, any skills that he's learned, any progress that he's made socially to your home because he's going, okay, this is the same rules and boundaries. Okay. But if you go back to how you were with him before or not reinforcing things, so on and so forth, guaranteed he's going to start pushing the boundaries again. Okay.
Okay.
So that's the tricky part with board and trains is we can get a lot done here because that's what you're paying us for. But the con is when the dog goes back, if the owner isn't good about reinforcing the training or using the collar, XYZ, the dog's going to regress because they're like, okay, you don't mean it. You're not willing to do, the hard stuff, so to speak. Okay. Question on any of that?
No, just like what does the, training at home, like, what does that entail? Or like,
Well, part of it's going to be, sorry,
will I come there like a few days during the board and train to like for you to teach me how to handle him
you
and
can. So the board and trains come with follow-ups, right?
mhm.
Most people um, do the board and train, they'll pick up their dog, and then they'll come back for a follow-up, usually 2 weeks later, with questions. Okay. Yours is a bit different because you're having to learn um, both the training, but then also the behavioral aspect of it, so that when he goes home, you're kind of already building off of a foundation, so to speak. Okay. So you're welcome to come during the program to have a lesson, a couple of lessons or whatever before he goes home. So it's just not like, okay, pick up my dog and I hope everything goes well. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so with the board and trains, there's also training videos. with your particular dog. Okay. So there's going to be the obedience aspect, which is going to serve its purpose. And you get a video for each week that we have the dog. The first week is always the longest, anywhere between 2 to 2.5 hours long. Okay. Sometimes three, depending if the dog's super difficult. I send you that video once I have it together, and then you get the link, and then you can watch it. Okay. Then, once you've watched it, you're welcome to come over to have an in-person with me to kind of get some hands-on feel for the training, the standard obedience stuff. Okay. Then week two, there'd be a separate video. That one, still obedience wise, is us pushing his obedience to be off-leash reliable. And in your case, we're also pushing socialization. Okay. Once we've started that process, then I go, you're welcome to come over and we'll do where you have Bush, then I have the dog, and then we push socialization. Okay. So again, you get a hands-on feel for how that works.
And would it be possible to bring Roy
Yes.
to do
Yes.
to do that? Okay.
He would be no earlier than the second in person.
Yeah, no, it's just whenever you would say, I was
No.
just.
So once we do socialization on our end, right?
Mhm.
And you've had the first class and you have a feel for how the e-collar and everything works, then if you go, hey, second class, I'd like to bring Roy, go bring him along.
Okay.
Okay. Because that's obviously going to be a problem. And with the board and train, the longer the board and train, the more follow-ups you have. The 1 week is one follow-up, one video. 2 week is three follow-ups, two videos. 3 week, five follow-ups, two videos. 4 week, seven, four videos. Okay. So the more we have them, the more you have to work with post the board and train as well, right? Because the biggest test is going back home,
Yeah.
right? But at least, especially if you've done some of the classes here before taking them home, you have a lot of foundation to work through any problems that are going to arise because they're going to happen. It's just part of the process. Okay. Um, in the beginning, Bush would most likely be muzzled. That allows you to have Roy in the space and Bush in the space and kind of not have to worry so much about what happens if like Bush triggers, right? Because again, like if let's say Bush is laying down on his dog bed or something, and then you're sitting on the couch, and then maybe your boyfriend walks in with Roy, and then Roy jumps on the couch next to you, right? I'm going to assume that's probably going to be a problem, but we can't address it until it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately for us, like we can't tell Bush, hey, if you see Roy and you try to go after him, I'm going to correct you, right? Like we don't have that. He has to technically see the situation, respond to the situation, and have a consequence for making the wrong decision. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
Questions on any of that?
No.
The
No.
next thing is, and probably one of the harder parts is, unfortunately, things don't ever go back to what they were. Okay, so let's say there was a time and place when both Roy and Bush were completely just neutral with each other, right? Once tension begins, you're not going back to normalcy. Okay. I can't make Bush like Roy. Now, I have things that I can tell you, exercises to give you to create that. And you could do it for a year every day. And you're like, hey, Jesse, Bush still doesn't like Roy. You know, they just coexist. I go, yeah, that's about what you're gonna get then. Right? Now, let's say we do get Bush and Roy to like each other. Okay.
Because
And
I do think Roy, like you said, he is a happy-go-lucky. If Bush was nice to him, he'd be friends with him. Like he doesn't care.
yeah,
Like even though there's spats, like he is
yeah.
unfazed.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that just he it's not ever a problem, right? So like let's say Bush and Roy do end up liking each other, right? It doesn't mean that in the future there'll never be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So like for example, if I come upstairs with my pit and we've been gone for an hour and my wife's dog, Luna, again, they don't like each other. Luna will walk up to Lexi and wag her tail and lick her very submissively and all that stuff, right? And then you'll see Lexi just kind of stand there stoically because she's a confident dog. And then I'll address Luna going, that's enough. And then she'll walk away and leave her alone, right? But
Yeah.
if you were to see that and you're like, oh, Luna loves Lexi so much, right? I'm like, right, but Luna still doesn't like Lexi. It's momentary, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't want you to get tricked by that kind of stuff because it does happen where the human goes,
No,
oh,
I
everything's great.
I will say I can read his body language very well. He does the whale eye thing. Like I can tell when he's not happy with
Happening.
whatever's going on.
Good. Okay. Um, Last thing would be, and this is because of the sheer size of Bush, okay, is I was talking about output earlier. And he would be on a Dogtra Black Edition. Tina would send the information for this stuff, so you don't have to worry about it. It's
Hmm.
meant for a 70-pound dog and over. Okay. So that's the appropriate collar for Bush. It has happened in the past where a dog will override the collar. Okay. Meaning you could be maxed out and the dog just does not care about it. They just push through. Okay. In this case, what we can do is you can actually have two collars paired to one remote. So this gives you enough output to override the situation. Now, I don't know what Bush is going to need until I actively start working with him. And we always start low and we work our way up, right? So like, let's say we're doing a socialization where I'm recording it so that you can watch it for your education, right? And we're bringing an intact male into Bush's space. And I'm going 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and I just keep going up, right? I could be 127 tapping, and you'll just see Bush going at it. He's completely unfazed, right? And I go, okay. And I can do continuous. Continuous is when it's a harsher correction. It's as the name implies, it's continuous stimulation until you stop pressing the button. Okay. And even then, the dog can override it because the sheer size of the dog and the intensity of the aggression, adrenaline levels go up, right? All those things can override the collar. So then I would most likely come to a stop in the video and I go, okay, Bush has overridden the 127 max power correction here. He's completely unfazed. I'm gonna have to put on a second collar. Okay.
Okay.
We repeat the process. I start low again, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Okay. Um, until I find a number that stops him. Okay. And at that point, I would reach out and go, hey, he's going to need a second collar in case he becomes aggressive in the home. You're going to need a second one in order to actually disengage him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is just FYI, this is worst case scenario. Okay. It's not very common, but the times that this has been necessary is almost always a 130, 140, 50-pound dog because they're
Yeah.
so big. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, he's so big and like just part of his breed, he has a
Fur.
lot of neck fur, a lot of skin.
Yes. Okay. So all those things are factors that contribute. We always start with the minimal. We see what we get. And then if we end up in that situation, like I said, like I would explain it like, okay, and you'll see it. You'll see where he's like completely unfazed and he's just going for it, right? Or he doesn't stop. Like you'll see him back away, but then he'll go again. But the moment we get the appropriate amount of pressure, all of a sudden he stops and goes, okay, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. Okay.
Hmm.
So that's all remains to be seen. Unfortunately, I can't predict it until I start working with the dog,
Yeah.
but that's just worst case scenario. Okay.
Hmm.
Question on any of that.
No.
Um, Questions not related.
I guess I don't know if this matters or anything. Bush is scared of fireworks. I don't know if
4th of
that
July.
has, yeah, I don't know. But like not like if he's in the home and they're outside, like he'll go and hide in the bathroom. But like,
Mhm.
if we're outside, like he will go hide under something. So
Sure,
I don't
yeah.
know if that has any relevance, but
No, I will say because we're on the southwest side of Chicago, that the 4th of July is very much a lot of fireworks around here.
mhm,
Um, but during those days, like I don't take out dogs because I know a lot of them have issues with fireworks, and it's not beneficial to take them out in that. the environment anyways.
Yeah.
So it couldn't be an issue. The only thing I would say he'd probably be stressed, obviously the day of 4th of July, would have you. Um, but other than that, shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. And then he is up to date on his vaccines, but he will be due on July 9th. But I did talk to the vet and they said I could bring him in early
Hmm.
to give him like all the boosters and stuff.
Sure, because you're trying to get him in as soon as possible, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. How soon could it be? And I mean, and you said Tina will send me which Dogtra collar to get, right?
Correct. Yeah. Now we do sell them. Um, if you get it through us, it is 10% off. And then
Oh,
if something happens to the collar, because it's happened in the past, in the first 30 days, I just swap them out myself and I deal with the exchange with the company myself. Um, but yeah, she'll send you the information for that. You might also need a prong collar. Does he have a prong or no?
no. He has like the chain choker.
The chain choker? Okay. So the prong collar just gives you much more physical leverage to control them. I'm not against the choke or the slip chain collars, but the prong collar will give you a lot more leverage in terms of controlling them, okay, physically. Whereas the remote collar ideally is what's doing a bulk of the work. Okay. We
Hmm.
have those too. They're not expensive. They're like 25, $30, and you get 10% off of that. Anything that we sell here, you get 10% off as a
Okay.
client. Um, bup, bup, bup. So then the only thing that we would need is a fecal really. If you want to take them in early to get his shots, you're more than welcome to. If you want to wait until July 9th and maybe pick him up and then he would be gone for a day or whatever, you could do that too. I don't have a problem with it. Um, just depends on how you want to go about doing the shots.
Yeah, I'd probably just do them before.
Okay, no problem.
Uh, and then, yeah, what, like, so I know you said the fecal, so, like, we're looking at maybe, like, next week, bring him?
Well, fecals generally get done within a day or two.
Okay.
So like, let's say you planned on what's today, Wednesday. If you took a fecal today, you could probably have them in as soon as Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, okay. Yeah, that works. And then when I drop the fecal off at the vet, I can just have him do his shots.
Sure.
Okay. Um,
Fecals typically don't take long.
okay. So then what are, what else are next steps to get it
Um,
up or do?
you would reach out to Tina. At minimum, I'd recommend a 3 week. 4 week is our longest. Because that would give us, at minimum, with 3 weeks, we would get at least 2 weeks of socialization in. Obviously, if you do a 4 week, we're getting 3 weeks of socialization in. Um,
Can
because
we start with three and then you give me, your opinion on how he's doing and if he should stay for another week? Can we do something like that?
you can do that, but we don't prorate programs. So, for example, a 3 week, I believe off the top of my head, is 37.50. A 4 week is 47.50, right? A 1 week is 17.50 because that's where all the work is. So if you do a 3 week and then it's like, oh, we're gonna do another week, it's gonna be 17.50. So instead of paying only 1,000 more, you're paying 750 on top of the 1,000 more, if that makes sense. Okay.
Gotcha.
So the minimum I'd recommend is three. Four is actually the better one because we get more time to socialize them. And then I just leave it up to your personal opinion, or your preference. The only time that I'll bypass um the not prorating is if I told the client, let's say I told you do a 2 week, you're good with 2 weeks, and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I actually need them for another week. Obviously, that's on me,
Got
right?
it.
Because I said do the 2 week. So I'm just saying here, at minimum, I would do three, but four would be the best. Okay.
Okay.
So completely up to you. Bup, 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 bup. Regardless of any program that you do, there will always be work on your behalf. Okay.
Yeah.
All the training's tied to us, all that stuff's tied to us, and we have to transfer everything over to you, which is why that we have the follow-ups. Okay. I can only take you as far as you're willing to go. Meaning, if you take Bush home, let's say it's worst case scenario, he happens to need the two collars, whatever, right? Let's say there's a flare up, and instead of using your collar to correct them and stop the flare up, you just grab them and take them away and throw them in a room, right? Because it's like, oh, I didn't like it, Jesse, because he yipped and I didn't like that he yipped and all this. I'm like, well, now he's learned you're not going to do it, and that works against you. Okay.
Yeah.
What makes me a very good dog trainer, very successful, is I'm willing to go to those kind of extremes when necessary to stop the behavior. Every dog's got a breaking point. It's just what's the breaking point going to be, right?
Yeah.
In your case, you just got a big guy with a lot of fur. So I'm like, maybe worst case scenario, we need this thing possibly. Won't know until we're there. But I'm more like I tell that because I'm like, I'm willing to go there. I'll do it. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. I
It's
understand.
always it's the owner.
No, I'm for it.
So
Yeah. I no arguments here.
yeah. Okay, but everything we do is explained, it's logical. We always start low and we work our way up as necessary. If he flares up with the dog, a neuter dog, and I correct him at 50 and he stops his BS at 50, we're at 50. Okay.
Okay.
Every case is different. The size, breed, um, your dog, temperament, none of that stuff matters. What matters is how receptive, how susceptible is he to the e-collar? Okay. And then that's what makes a difference.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
No. I think that's it. Okay. So I guess I will ask in your professional opinion. You've done this a lot. Like,
Mhm.
is it fixable to get them to at least coexist?
Yeah. Coexistence is the easiest.
Okay.
Okay. Now, sometimes coexistence requires a prison-like structure, meaning Bush is always being told what to do. Okay.
Hmm.
The human feels bad about it. The dog doesn't care. But that's what gets people. Because, like, oh, but my dog, like, they don't get to be on the couch or they don't get to just be loose and, remember the normalcy thing. I go,
Yeah.
right. But if you're not willing to provide that very strict regimented structure for your dog, then we're not able to keep the dog, right? So to give you an example, one of my first aggression cases bit the husband, bit the mother-in-law, and bit like a dog walker or something. Bit a lot of people. Okay. So we trained the dog. Dog made a lot of progress. And I told them, because there was a husband and wife, I was like, when you guys have kids, your kids will never interact with this dog. And whenever this dog's going to be out, this dog is always muzzled. Okay. Because of the aggressiveness of the dog. Uh, we curbed a lot of the behavior. We fixed a lot of things. But I told them the risk versus reward here, right? Your kids interacting with your dog and then having a moment where your dog then bites your child is not worth it, right?
Yeah.
And this was 12 years ago. And they've heeded those instructions and they still have their dog to this day. He has his own little space in the home when the kids are out and stuff like that, so he's not intermingling with the kids and everything. When they take him out for walks and stuff, he's always got his muzzle on. But that's what has allowed them to keep their dog all this time because they were willing to do that. Whereas most people, they're like, well, at some point, I'd like the muzzle to go away. I was like, I would like it to go away too. But the risk versus reward here, it's not really worth it.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you guys in the beginning, muzzle obviously, and then you may get to a point where it's like, okay, like everything's been great. We'll take the muzzle off, but he'll always have his collar on if we know that they're going to be kind of together. Okay. Which is actually leads me to my next point. It's a very common question. When does the e-collar go away? Right. In my book, when you need it, it doesn't. So if you're going out for a walk and you're going to be on a hiking trail, there's other off-leash dogs or something like that, you'd have your collar on. If he's going to be around other male dogs, you'd have the collar on. If him and Roy are going to be coexisting in the space, you'd have your collar on, right?
Yeah.
Because when the collar is off, dogs behave differently. That's just the thing. It's not my skills as a trainer. It's not the training tool itself. It's what's known as opportunistic behavior. Are you familiar with this term?
Yeah.
Right. Which is if the dog can attempt the behavior without consequence, then why wouldn't they do it? Right. So the collar helps keep them in check. And then if something happens, like let's say everything's going great, and then Bush is minding his business, and then Roy out of nowhere decides, let me jump on you to play, right? Just it just happens. And then Bush is like, whoa, we were cool until you jumped on me, right?
Yeah.
Things like that people don't kind of think about that do happen is like I want to know that I always have the ability to like stop the problem. Okay. In your case, it's difficult because they're obviously going to coexist with each other in the home, as opposed to like it was just Roy came once a week or once a month or whatever. Then it's a little bit easier because it's once a week, once a month. That's the only time I have to worry about this problem.
Okay.
Anything else?
Um, I don't think so. I guess small children stress Bush out. You could tell that
Okay.
they stress him out. He's never
Okay.
attacked a child or anything, but
Mhm.
like babies crying or small kids crying, anything under five just sort of make him a little uneasy.
Okay.
But I think that's it. I think I've pretty much
Do you
given
need me
you.
to work? Do you need me to work on that?
Um, if you can, there's not that's not the focus. Like I said, he's never gone after kids. If you're able to do that, great. You could just tell that they make him uncomfortable.
Sure. I mean, we have my son. He's a year old. He's got to start working. He's expensive to feed.
Okay, yeah,
So what I would do is I'd bring him out, see how he does. If there's any reactivity, any tension, we can correct it and stuff like that.
okay,
Um, you know, I'll press as much as I'm comfortable with. My wife is. Um, that's the only access to a child that we have. So if we bring him out and he's like completely neutral and fine, then I'd point that out. Now, if in the future, you know, children is in your future, you know, it's actually much more likely that a dog will warm up to your own child than another person's child
yeah.
because of the
Um,
constant coexistence.
yeah. So like I have nephews, and like he was very intrigued, like whenever they would cry, and if I would pick them up, that was usually what would really kind of make him uncomfortable.
Interesting. We can work on that with one of the follow-ups too.
Okay.
If they come along with you and we replicate all those things that you would do, we'd work through them if we see anything. So the follow-ups can be used for anything you want. Even if
Okay.
we can't cover it in the board and train, the follow-ups is you saying, "Hey Jesse, everything else is great, but we have this problem and you couldn't cover it in the board and train." I go, "Yeah, no problem. Let's do it now."
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, I'm sure the follow-ups will, mainly consist of just us bringing Roy and like hopefully making them.
sure. You call the shots. Okay. You call the shots. You come tell me what you want to do, and then I'm like, okay, cool. Take care of it. And the last thing, by the way, with the 3 to 4 week is you do get more lessons with the 4 week too. So, it kind of gives you more stuff more lessons to work with as opposed to you can always buy individual lessons too. You know, just depends on how much you want us to push, how much follow up you want to have. Um, you know, so we'll play it by ear.
Okay. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, Lexi.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you so much.
you're very welcome. If there's any questions you may have forgotten to ask, you can send them to Tina. If they pertain to me, she'll send them to me, and then I'll answer them, send them back to her. She'll forward them to you. Otherwise, she'll handle any of the scheduling stuff and all that. And then as soon as you have your fecal and stuff done, we can start getting everything situated for the board and train. Okay. So if you already
Okay.
have a target date, you can email her, tell her the length of time that you would like. She'll put you on the calendar. Once your invoice is paid, you're cemented in. We know you're coming, we know that you mean it, and then we'll do everything that we can to get you in as soon as possible.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
All right. Thank you so much. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.